What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 1 of Is It Bullshit? A series where I take a deep dive into a product or trend and try to figure out whether it lives up to the hype or if it's just complete bullshit. My name's Andrew Foltz, and today we're talking about the things that you put on your feet when you don't want things on your feet. Barefoot shoes. I'm going to take you through 3 sandals and shoes that I've been testing out for the past 12 months and answer the question that's on your mind, which is what happens when you completely cut cushion out of your life? AKA, are barefoot shoes bullshit? So, a little background. Back in 2009, Chris McDougall wrote this book called Born to Run, and the essential argument in it was that a lot of professionals in the sports industry were telling us that to fix our feet, we had to buy stuff as opposed to fix our form or just become better runners or walkers in general. And he has this really good quote. He says, "I was never told what to do, I was only told what to buy." And I think that pretty much sums it up. So after I read the book, I was really interested, but I was also kind of skeptical because I didn't know if I could run on the road without cutting up my feet on stones and stuff like that in barefoot shoes. And then number 2, I thought, if I take away all the cushion from my shoes, is that gonna make my knees and my hips and everything else actually worse? Because I was getting a lot of injuries at the time. So I started out in this 12-month journey, and here's what happened. So when most people think about barefoot shoes, this is probably the first thing that comes to mind. This is a Vibram FiveFingers shoe. This is a V-Trek. It's meant for trails, really. But when I was starting to think about buying barefoot shoes, this is the first thing that I bought. I took it out on trails first just to walk around, and I actually really liked it. It's super light. It's extremely flexible. You can basically roll it into a ball. I did get some of the feeling on the ground, a lot more than I was used to because I'm used to really stiff hiking boots. So it was great for that, but there's a couple drawbacks. Number 1, it still feels a little bit too clunky to run in as a barefoot shoe. I wasn't really sure what I was looking for, but I knew that this wasn't it. And then also on a practical standpoint, it's got the 5 separated toes, so every time you put it on, it's almost like putting on 20 different shoes. And then if you wear a pair of socks with it, like in Gingies maybe, where they've actually got the separated toes, then it's like putting on 40 shoes. So when I'm already trying to motivate myself to get out the door to run, this wasn't a great option. So I had to go for something else. And the second thing that I picked up was a Xero sandal. And Xero Shoes is a brand that makes a lot of minimalist footwear. This is actually only 5 millimeters, so it was even lighter than the Vibram. It's also another one where you can basically roll it into a ball, and they bill it as a sports sandal. So I thought I can try running in these and see what happens. I took them on a little run, basically going from my driveway to the end of the street. And I had to turn around because, again, it just didn't feel like running barefoot. I mean, I can run barefoot on pavement, no problem, but I do worry about stepping on stuff. This obviously protects you from stepping on things, but it still feels too thick. Like, I didn't feel like I had a good sense of the ground when I was running. And I thought at this point that maybe I was ready to give up. I mean, this was probably about 3 months in or so, and I didn't feel like I was going to find that shoe that would actually work for barefoot running. So I thought I would give it one more try, and someone recommended this company called VivoBarefoot. So I picked up a shoe called the Primus Lite from them. Again, it's super flexible, extremely light. And so I strapped these on and I went out for a run with them like I did with the Xero sandals. And I made it a lot farther. I mean, I made it to the end of my neighborhood, and I did feel like I was getting, stones on the bottom of my feet, and I was feeling that. And then after the run, I was definitely getting blisters, but it felt a lot closer to what I imagined barefoot running should feel like. So I just kind of kept up with it, and I would go out for maybe like 10 minutes, and then I would go out for 15 minutes, and then 20 minutes. And after a few weeks, I was starting to go on my normal 3-mile runs or 5-mile runs. And it was still like my feet still felt like they were getting blisters every time I was going out running, but the more I did it, the fewer blisters I got, and the more they were turning into calluses. And then I also realized my stride was starting to change. So as opposed to hitting more towards the back where I was with a traditional shoe, which have kind of a higher drop to them, I was actually hitting more of a midfoot strike. And what I realized in doing that is that my knees were more bent when I was running. They were like closer under me. So as I started running in these, a lot of the problems that I had, like knee pain and hip pain, and shin splints in the front, all just completely went away after, I would say, about a month's time of running in with these. So I was really excited about that. And the other cool thing about them was I started to get a really good feel of the surface that I was on. And it changed for me, like how excited I was to go out and run, because of a traditional shoe, it's so cushioned that you really don't feel the surface that you're running on. It's almost like you leave your feet at the front door because you're not really getting a lot of sensation. It's sort of like if you were just blindfolded for your whole life and then someone took it off and like you could see where you were going. And that was pretty cool. And then the other thing for the Vivos is just how long they last. So I've had these for 500 miles. I've been running them for about a year. I don't run a lot of miles, but like I said, I have 500 on them, and they look basically brand new. I mean, on the outside, they certainly, like the outsole or the upper of the shoe certainly looks brand new. And then if you look at the inside of the shoe, it's got a little bit of wear here, but I would expect to get, you know, maybe 1,500 miles out of these or 2,000 miles out of these. So I'm really loving these. Now, I just want to go through a quick fire succession of questions, some like common questions that I had before I started running in barefoot shoes. Number one, can I transition immediately? I think this is the biggest question around barefoot shoes, and the answer is that you can't just buy a pair of barefoot shoes and start going on your normal runs or start wearing them all day, every day, and expect it to go well, because one, you need to build up some calluses to protect your feet a little bit. Like when I go out on runs, I do step on stones and things like that. And even now, it still stings a little bit, but much, much less than when I first started out. And it's the kind of thing like you might step on a stone and it'll sting for a second and then it goes away. And that really only happens a couple times in my run, but everything else, because of the calluses that I have on my feet, everything else is basically gone away and I don't feel any other stones, so that's great. The second thing to consider is that you do, if you're on a heel strike, if you're hitting down with your heel first as opposed to the midfoot, that's something that you're going to have to work on, and barefoot shoes can help you with that, but it's not going to happen overnight. And I would recommend probably about 3 to 6 months to fully transition over. And like I did, you can kind of just go step by step. So you go out for 10 minutes and then 20 minutes and then 30 minutes. So just take it easy. Don't dive into it expecting it to happen overnight. Another question, do I have to change my stride? We just talked about that. You do have to change your stride unless you're already running in maybe like zero drop type of footwear or something really minimalist where it's even on the front and the back and you are hitting with a midfoot strike already. Also, are barefoot shoes expensive? The Primus Lite, this shoe retails for $130, I think. They may have a fancier version for $150 now. So it's really, if anything, only about $10 to $20 more expensive than your normal $120 pair of shoes. And from my experience, it is probably going to last, I would say, 3 to 4 times as long. So when I see people say that barefoot shoes are expensive, I think it's actually the opposite. I think they're actually very cheap compared to more cushioned shoes. Because if I look at like a Brooks Ghost or anything else at 500 miles, they're basically trashed. And not only that, but they smell like shit, they look like shit, and they feel, they probably feel like shit even before that 500 mile mark. You know, like when I'm running ultras or anything else cushioned, by 300 miles, they just don't feel good. I mean, the cushion's breaking down. And with a barefoot shoe, there's nothing to break down. I mean, not only that, but there's so little to them that there's only the outsole, and as that wears away, your feet get stronger. So it's almost like they start getting better and better the longer you wear them, which is really cool. Another major question, will barefoot shoes help with plantar fasciitis? I think the answer is yes. However, if you're using some kind of inserts to help you heal from plantar fasciitis, and you're getting that strain, running along your heel and up to the Achilles tendon, I don't think you should throw them away like overnight and switch to barefoot shoes. That's not going to benefit you. But I think wearing barefoot shoes in the long term can be really helpful in keeping plantar fasciitis from developing in the first place, because it basically puts you on a completely flat surface all the time. A lot of times it develops because you're wearing a shoe that's too cushioned, so your foot's actually like sinking into the cushion and it's straining it. So I think barefoot shoes can be great for that. I wear them at work all day long. Like I work part-time at a running store, and if I'm on my feet for 8 hours, I used to get a ton of plantar fasciitis, kind of like borderline plantar fasciitis, and my arch would be tired. And after I switched to barefoot shoes at work, it's like my feet don't hurt at all. I mean, they might get tired by the end of the shift, but they don't hurt, and I'm not getting plantar fasciitis or anything. So that's great. What else do we have? So, can you race in barefoot shoes? I want to say yes. I've run some, speedy 5Ks and down towards like the 18-minute mark. But if you're really like a top-level runner, it's hard for me to see how you could do the faster stuff in barefoot shoes, because you just don't have any cushion in them, and so your feet are working a little bit harder to cushion you when you're coming down. Maybe there are people who are at the top level running in barefoot shoes, but I'm not aware of any of them. So I think if you are a runner and you're looking to do some upper tempo stuff, or race, I would recommend going with like a really minimal racing flat. If you like the zero drop stuff, Ultra makes a shoe called the Vanish, which is really light, really cool. So a couple more, actually just one more question really. Do you need socks with barefoot shoes? A lot of the barefoot shoes say that you can wear them without socks, like Vibram. I mean, these can be great without socks. I think for hiking they can be okay, but for running there's a lot more like of your foot sliding forwards and backwards. So I wear like a smart wool sock with this, something that's pretty snug, that has a little bit of cushion, just to prevent my foot sliding around in the shoe, because that's what leads to blisters. So I think that pretty much covers most of the questions a lot of people have on barefoot shoes. So let's get to the verdict. I think it's pretty obvious by now that barefoot shoes are not bullshit. I think the one thing that is a holdup for most people, or is going to be a holdup, is the fact that you have to transition. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. So if you see a barefoot company telling you that you can just get into barefoot shoes and immediately fix your stride and all of your injuries and everything like that, that's not true. But if you're reasonable about it, if you take your time and you just progress, like mile by mile or distance or time by time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, I think you'll be fine. So just take it easy. I think barefoot shoes are really light, they're really durable, and I can't imagine myself going back to regular shoes now. Like I said, I work part-time at a running store, and it's like every time I put on a regular shoe, I just don't like it. It feels like a foot prison. And barefoot shoes tend to be a little bit wider. They give your toes space to move around. You can feel the surface that you're on. So I can't really imagine myself ever going back to to normal shoes. And I just want to thank you guys for watching. I hope that this was helpful. And if you're interested in transitioning to a barefoot shoe for everyday use or for running, let me know in the comments. Drop one below, and I may make a video in the future if people are interested in that, on how I transitioned. In terms of shoes you can buy, really for running, the Primus Lite by VivoBarefoot is the only shoe that I would recommend, and I'll drop that in the comments below. And beyond that, if you guys enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe for more of the same type of stuff, and share it with your friends. Thanks.